Good morning, class. Okay, take your seats. How are you today? Oh, I'm fine too. So today is another day, so it means it's another learning. But before I start my discussion, can you lend your ears to listen and pay attention on my discussion? So for today's lesson, I would like to tackle about active and passive voice of verb. Are you familiar with the word verb or have you been met this word before on your last school year? Okay, good. So now, can you determine what is verb? Okay, Mr. Cruz, go ahead. Very good. So, verb is an actual words of a sentence that describe of what the subject doing. So now, I have here three examples. Example number one. Anthony is throwing the football. So now, who can tell me where is the action words? Okay, Mr. Cruz? Very good. So in this sentence, throwing is the action word, or what we call the verb. So let's go ahead to example number two. She accepted the job offer. So who wants to volunteer? Okay, Mr. De La Cruz. Very good. So accepted here is the action word. So the last one is the dog ran across the yard. Who would like to answer? Okay, Mr. Oxin? Very good. So the word run here is the action word. These three sentences that I underlined is the action words or what we call the verb. Am I clear? In English grammar, verb have five properties, which are voice, tense, mode, person, and numbers. Here, we concerned with voice. The two grammatical voices are the active and passive. So now, what is active voice? Active voice is when the subject of a sentence performs the verb actions. Sentences in the active voice have a strong, direct, and clear tone. Here are some short and straightforward examples of active voice. Monkeys adore bananas. The cashier counted the money. The dog chased the squirrel. So all these three sentences have a basic active voice construction, which are the subject, verb, and the object. Am I understood? Good. The other hand, passive voice is when the subject is acted on by the verb. Passive voice is always constructed with a conjugated form of to be the verb's past participle. For these examples of passive voice, we will transform the three active sentences here to illustrate the difference. So I have here three sentences examples of the passive voice. Bananas are adored by monkeys. The monkey was counted by the cashier. The carrot chased by the dog. So let's look at closer. Look at the first pair sentence. Monkeys adore bananas, and bananas are adored by monkeys. The active sentence consists of subject, verb, and object. The passive sentence consists of object, past, a form of to be plus the past participle, preposition, and subject. Making the sentence passive flip the structure and necessitated the preposition by. In fact, all three of the transformed sentences above required the addition of by. Am I clear? Good. So now let's proceed to the differences of active and passive voice. In active voice, this would be the reverse of the passive voice, but the meaning would still be the same. The active voice emphasizes the person or agent who performs an action, in short, the actor. Let's look at this example. The dog chased the ball. The word dog is the subject and the ball is the object. In passive voice, you would say, the ball was chased by the dog. So the ball here is the subject and the dog is the object. So now the passive voice. The passive voice emphasizes the recipients of the action or sometimes the action itself. For examples, my car was stolen on Monday. The girl was bitten by the snake. All right. Do you understand? Do you have any questions? Clarifications? Okay, very good. All right. So another important of active and passive voice is their rules. The rules to change the sentence from active to passive form. Number one, the places of subject and object are interchanged. The object shifts to the place of subject and subject shifts to the place of object in the passive voice. Examples. In active voice, I write a letter. In passive voice, a letter is written by me. Number two, sometimes subject of the sentence is not used in passive voice. The subject of a sentence can be omitted in passive voice if without subject it can give enough meaning in passive voice. Examples. Clothes is sold in yards. So here we go at number three. Third form of verb, past participate, is always used as main verb in sentence of passive voice for all tenses. Base form of verb or present participle will never be used in passive voice. The word by is used before the subject in sentence and passive voice. Examples. In active voice, he sings a song. In passive voice, we would say a song is sung by him. Number four, the word by is not always used before the subject in a passive voice. Sometimes words with, to, etc. may also be used before the subject in passive voice. Example. In active voice, the water fills the tub. In passive voice, the tub is filled with water. And the last rules is auxiliary verbs are used in passive voice according to the tense of the sentence. Okay, am I clear? Do you understand? All right, very good. So now I will give you more examples so that you can understand well. In active voice, Sita reads a book. In passive voice, we would say, a book is read by Sita. Okay, number 2 examples. Who would like to read? Okay, Mr. Cruz. Very good. In passive voice. Okay. And third examples. Who would like to volunteer? Okay, Miss Rias. Read it aloud. In passive voice. Okay, in the fourth examples, in active voice, he sells book. In passive voice, books are sold by him. And the last examples, I have made some tea. In passive voice, we would say, tea has been made by me. Some people believe that sentences should be written in the active voice whenever possible. This might be because doing so can make writing more concise. As can be seen in the example, the passive voice usually requires more words. When improperly written, it can also sound awkward, especially when the subject of the sentence is only implied and not deliberately mentioned. However, this does not necessarily mean that using the passive voice should be avoided at all cost. It actually has its own uses. For instance, many authors use it as a tool in fiction writing. In particular, mystery writers are big fan of the passive voice since it allows them to conceal secrets within their stories. The lack of emphasis can the actor has also made the passive voice the primary choice when it comes to scientific or academic writing. While there has now been a shift in terms of allowing scientists to discuss the actions they have taken and the experiments they have conducted, the science field remains partial to the passive voice in order to maintain a tone of objectivity. This is because it does not put particular focus on individual perspective and instead looks at the actions undertaken as well as the results. Writing, always consider whether you should use the active or passive voice. It will depend on what you, the writer, want to convey. If you want to draw attention to the doer, use the passive voice. If you intend to put the focus on the action, then you should go for the active voice. Do you understand, class? Do you have any questions or clarifications? Okay, very good. So now let's have an activities. Get one half sheet of paper. Activity number 1, instruction. Determine each sentence whether an active voice or passive voice. Activity number 2, instruction. Change the active voice to passive voice. Okay, I will give you 20 minutes to answer. Are all done? Pass it in front. Okay, very good. So that's all for our discussions today, and I hope that you have learned something. Thank you, class, and have a blessed day.